what were your greatest lessons learned or greatest victories had over the last week?
I had two. I'll kick things started. So the first one is I post on the Facebook group, but I had a lead that came in. It took me off guard because she said, "Hey, do you work in the Hudson area?" I said, "Sure." She says, "Well, we need some help selling our house." And I was like, this is weird. Like, how'd you get my number? And I'm thinking all these things like, well, who is it? How'd you, with that? And I said, oh my gosh, you came to the right person. They were in Maryland, and I just converted over the IC into a Google slideshow, figured out how to do Zoom. I figure, don't take this the wrong way, Jonathan, but I'm like, if Jonathan could do Zoom, I could figure it out. So I figured it out.
Exactly.
Signed him up, and we could wait for the Q&A later tonight if I can get on Mr. Mom this week. But I see just finding out what their motivation is, because I went through the 7 questions, and that's just the framework. This is, I don't want to be cocky, but this comes from just more practice for the freshman class, so to speak. But asking the 7 questions, if that's all I asked, just going through the motions, I would not have gotten the listing. But really diving deep and having the framework and finding out, well, what are you guys doing now?
They got a problem. We have to agitate that problem. And then it's like, here's the solution. And away it goes. And that's what a doctor does all day long. And that's what we need to do, not all day long, just a couple times a month. And we got a lot of good GCI. So, yay, nice job, Joel. Cool. Who else has got something they want to share? Victory had, lesson learned.
I'll step up. By the way, Joel, that was just amazing. Okay. So how many times does Jonathan say, like, well, what's the response? When's the perfect time for an open house? When is Starbucks open? So because of my schedule this week, I did an open house on Saturday from 10 a.m. to 1. And I didn't put up 2 signs. I did put up a couple extra signs, so sorry for that. But it was in an area where the house was hard to find. But anyway, long story short, I picked up a neighbor just like walked in and said, "Hey, sorry, we're not buyers, but we are looking to sell our house in the spring, and we're interviewing agents." I was like, "You got to be kidding me, right?" So I just did the IC right then and there, and they're really pushing for a discount broker. And I said, "Yeah, you can go that route," and then blah blah blah. But they've invited me to their house and discount broker, and I've had but there's that. But then another, just a curious mom and son came by, and again, this is at 10 o'clock. They walk in, and they're like, "Yeah, we weren't even expecting to. We weren't even like really look, but we saw this home. It's like, who the heck has an open house at 10 o'clock in the morning? Like, that's not like traditional." Yeah. So they walk in, and I talk to them, and I literally give them an IC. And they're there for an hour talking about the market. I'm just educating them. So, I mean, that's probably, we're looking at $700,000 house there for them. And the seller's probably $750,000. And then I've got one more awesome thing to say.
So just so I get this straight, in one open house, you picked up basically a 750 seller, 750 buyer, times maybe 2.5%. So we're talking probably 18,000 times 2, so like 36,000 GCI.
Yeah, it's kind of nuts, right? And obviously, like, it's not going to be next month, but one is going to be in 3 months, and the other one's going to be in 6 months to 8 months. So yes, that's a lot of money. Nice. But then another really cool thing is one of the leads that I talked to that I got. I called her and I was like, "Okay, this is a $1 million buyer that I got, and this is not often." And she said, "Hey, thanks so much for the call, but I'm working like 4 different realtors, and I got to be honest with you, if it wasn't like Zabrocki and the Rhino and going for it, I'd have been like, oh yeah, I totally understand. thank you so much. No, I said, oh, okay, well, well, what do you know about me and how I massively benefit you? And did the spiel. And she's like, what? And she's like, wow, okay, let's talk. That was last week. And I forfeited doing open house on Sunday to show her around. She's an $800,000 sale and buying $1 million property.
Bam.
Pretty crazy.
Ooh,
Oh,
that's like 60,000.
it's 50,000 to be very conservative.